5 top forecasts that I use throughout the season as a Wasatch Mountain skier. I ski Alta Snowbird. It's kind of where I pinpoint my forecasts, but you know, these are pretty good for general areas of Utah. Probably more than that, but some are a little bit more specific. So I'll start with long-term forecasts and move closer to short-term forecasts. So number 1 on the list, buoy number 51101. This is a buoy out in the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii. This measures wave height. So what it's basically measuring is when there's storms coming out in the Pacific Ocean, it raises the swell heights of these waves. From about 2 weeks from these wave heights popping out there, those same storms are going to reach Utah, or roughly. And it's not perfect. It's not one of the things you could set your watch by, but this is something to look at. It definitely tells you if there's storms coming. You know, if there's no buoy pops, there's probably no storms in the horizon. There's a really cool Instagram page that the guy in Utah has put out. He'll tell you when a buoy pop is, and then he'll say, okay, this storm's coming, and he'll put some dates out there. So it's really cool to watch. And then when those dates come up, he'll put a forecast and say, see, you know, it worked this time. And, you know, again, it's an art, so it doesn't work every time, but it's something cool to watch. All right, the next one I like to watch is weather.com. This is a more national forecast, but one of the reasons I like to look at this one is as a 10-day forecast. You know, if I'm looking out in the horizon, looking out past a week, I like to look at this one. Again, it's not perfect, but, you know, it'll tell you, you know, you can look 10 days out and it'll say, you know, 25%, 50% chance of these storms coming. So, you know, it's saying there's a chance, and you can watch those as it gets closer. If the percentage gets higher, percentage gets lower, sometimes they disappear altogether. So you never know, but weather.com is a really good one. Another reason I like weather.com is they have a really cool hourly forecast. So when you're a little bit closer to the storms, the hourly forecast is nice. And I use this in the summertime too, when I go boating and fishing, you know, looking at the wind, and when the wind comes up in the afternoon, I like to know when that comes up. So weather.com is a really good one. Put a link down there on that. Obviously, you don't need a link because it's weather.com. Number 3, NOAA 5-day forecast, and I'll put a link below. But you know, usually I go to Alta or Snowbird and look up their link if I don't have it already up in my browser. And one of the cool things I like about this forecast is they have a little map in the corner, and they show a little box where the forecast area is. And it's really specific, and it should be specific, because here in the Wasatch Mountains, Little Cottonwood, Big Cottonwood Canyon, you got, you know, Park City, Deer Valley, these places have different forecasts. Even though they're really, if you look on a map, they're right next to each other, they all get totally different snowfall amounts. And this NOAA forecast shows different forecasts for these amounts. So you can even click on the little box on this map to get different spots. So it's cool. It's a cool little experiment to do. You know, pop up the link at Snowbird or Alta and look at the little box. It shows at the top of Little Cottonwood Canyon. You can move the little box over to, you know, Park City, and you'll get totally different forecasts with totally different snow amounts. So it's really interesting just to look. But the 5-day forecast, you know, this is where you're getting pretty close to a storm. It's you know, within 3 or 4 days on that forecast, they do show snow amounts, and they're usually pretty good. But this updates, I want to say 2 or 3 times per day. So you could check it each time it updates. Those snow totals typically change. So things change. You know, you can't look at it 3 days out and then not look at it and then go skiing and say, hey, these are different snow amounts than what they said. Well, of course it's different. You know, the forecast changed, and it changes all the time. So you need to be kind of on it when it comes to looking at these forecasts. These forecasts change all the time. So NOAA 5-day, this is a staple. You need to know about this one. I'll put a link below, but again, go to Snowbird or Alta. They have links specific to their resorts. I'm sure the other resorts too, but I ski at Snowbird or Alta more, so that's typically where I'm looking. All right, number 2, University of Utah. This is a sweet forecast. These guys at the U of U know Utah and know Utah weather, and really, really comprehensive. The graphs that they put up and the models they put up are really great. I specifically like the graph that they use, and this is a graph that the powder buoy guy will put up when the storms come up, and the graph will show on the bottom, it'll show time, show hours or days on the bottom, and then on the side it will be inches of snow. And what you can look at there'll be all these different plot lines on this graph. There'll be 50 different plot lines. And basically what's happening here is they're running different models, and each model shows a different result for the storm. So some will say, oh, this storm, if you look at the top, it'll say this storm has the potential of dropping 60 inches of snow. But at the low end, it might say 10 inches of snow. So their mean forecast, or their average right in between, might be 12 to 24 or 24 inches or whatever, 18 inches of snow. So if you look at those, it really tells you that this is an art. It really tells you that these guys that forecast snow are never really wrong if they show you all of that information, because they're saying, hey, this can be anywhere from 10 inches to 60, anywhere in between. And so when they forecast 12 to 24 and then it gets 10, and people are like, oh, they said 24 inches and only snowed 10 inches, they're wrong. And it's like, well, not really. They're just kind of telling you an average of the forecast, and they're really just reading models. I mean, these computer models are spitting out these results, and it depends on how you're reading them. It depends on how comprehensively you're reading these forecasts. It depends on how well you understand them. And another thing I've noticed, I should say, is on the good years, like when you have these record-breaking years, it tends to snow more than what they say. It also tends to, these storms extend more than what they say. Like I'll look at a forecast and they'll say, oh, snow on Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday it clears up. But then in reality, on Monday it ends up snowing an extra foot. And then on Tuesday it snows an extra 6. So these are things that happen, these patterns that happen on big years when we tend to get a lot of snow. Whereas, on these years where it doesn't snow that much, you look back, and a lot of the forecasts are kind of the opposite. These storms kind of dwindle out a little bit faster than what they say. And really, if you look at the different models, it's just on the low end of the model spectrum. So it's important to know how to read these forecasts, know that there's many different possibilities that come from these forecasts. It's not cut and dry. It's not like this is how much it's going to snow and this is a crystal ball and this is it, this is that, that's all. So got to take it with a grain of salt, got to be smart. And look, hey, some people like to be pissed off at yelling at the weatherman, and that's fine too. I've definitely been guilty of that for sure. All right, number 1 forecast that you should be looking at, and really this is just the short-term forecast, and this is again found, I usually find it on the Snowbird site under the weather page. I will also put a link below, but this is the Little Cottonwood Canyon 24-hour forecast, and this is a great forecast. One of the things I like about this forecast is the discussion part, and the discussion part is so informative because it's laying out the possibilities, and it's laying out what's probably going to happen and the different dynamics happening with the storm. And it's really specific. It's specific to snow rates, wind direction, when the wind comes up, when the wind comes down. Also, the snow density. It's going to tell you how dense the snow is, how much water is in the snow, and if that changes throughout the storm. Really cool forecast, and this is very close to the storm. So this is 12-hour and 24-hour. First 24-hour period will start at 5 a.m. Second 24-hour period will start at, 12-hour period will start at 5 p.m. So really cool forecast to look at and watch if you're a powder skier. And the more forecasts you know about, the more informed you can be about your powder skiing day. Because if you ski in Utah, that's why you ski Utah. You ski Utah for powder. That's all for this episode. Thanks for dropping in.